Subscribe for more horror stories, and we begin. The Man Who Kept the Receipts. Nobody in Derry noticed when the little stationery store on Witcham Street closed for good. It had been there since before the war, back when people still wrote letters on real paper and kept carbon copies of everything important. The sign above the door, faded gold letters on black, simply read, "Receipts and Notions." After the owner, old Mr. Hargrove, died in his sleep, or so the coroner said, the place sat empty for 3 months. Then one Tuesday in October, the lights came back on. The new proprietor was a thin man in his late 40s named Ellis Crow. He wore the same gray cardigan every day, the same wire-rimmed glasses, the same polite half-smile that never quite reached his eyes. He didn't advertise. He didn't need to. Word got around in the quiet way things do in small towns. The man would buy your old receipts, any receipts, grocery slips, gas station printouts, parking tickets, dry cleaning stubs, library fines, even the little thermal paper strips from the ATM that most people threw away without looking at. He paid cash. Always cash. A nickel for the common ones, a quarter for anything older than 10 years, $1 for the really ancient stuff, those brittle, yellowed things from the 70s with the faded purple ink. People laughed about it at first. Ellis Crow's got a receipt fetish, they'd say, probably building a bonfire someday. But they kept bringing them in. Tommy Willard was the first one who noticed something was wrong. Tommy worked nights at the mill and liked to stop by the store on his way home, usually around 4 a.m. when the streets were empty except for the sodium lamps and the occasional raccoon. He'd bring in shoeboxes full of receipts his late mother had saved, every single purchase she'd ever made from 1968 until the day she passed. Tommy figured he'd get maybe $40 for the lot. Ellis counted them slowly, one by one, like a man reading love letters. When he reached the receipt from January 17, 1978, the day Tommy's father bought the snowblower that would later take 3 of his fingers, he paused. "This one," Ellis said softly. "This one's special." Tommy shrugged. "Yeah, that's the day Dad lost his hand. Bad luck, I guess." Ellis looked up. His eyes were very bright behind the glasses. "Not luck," he said. "Consequence." Tommy laughed, but the sound died in his throat when Ellis slid a single dollar across the counter. Not for the whole box, just for that one receipt. "Keep the rest," Ellis told him. "They're not finished yet." Tommy left with the box under his arm, feeling colder than the October wind should have made him. He didn't go back. 2 weeks later, the first strange thing happened. Old Mrs. Pelletier, who lived alone on Carver Street, was found sitting at her kitchen table with her hands folded neatly in front of her. No blood, no struggle, just a look on her face like someone had whispered the worst secret in the world directly into her ear. On the table in front of her was a single receipt from 1983, the one for the crib she'd bought the week before her grandson drowned in the bathtub. The receipt was pristine, no creases, no yellowing, as though it had been printed yesterday. The police took it as evidence. The next day, it was gone from the evidence locker. Nobody could explain how. After that, people started to notice the pattern. Every time someone died in Derry that winter, and there were more than usual, the body was found with a receipt, sometimes in their hand, sometimes on the nightstand, sometimes folded neatly inside their wallet, even though they hadn't carried a wallet in years. The receipts were always from the day something terrible had happened, the day the car went off the bridge, the day the husband never came home, the day the child wandered into the barrens and never came out, and every single receipt looked brand new. Ellis Crow never closed the store. The lights stayed on 24 hours a day. Sometimes very late at night, people walking past would see him sitting at the counter with a shoebox open in front of him, reading the receipts one by one, mouthing the dates and amounts like a prayer. He never aged. By March, most people had stopped bringing him their old slips of paper, but a few still did, the ones who couldn't help themselves, the ones who wanted to know.
One of them was a woman named Ruth Carver. She brought in the receipt from the night her sister disappeared in 1991, the night Ruth lied to the police and said she didn't know where her sister had gone. Ellis took it gently, the way you might take a sleeping baby from its mother. "This one," he said, "has been waiting a long time." Ruth tried to laugh. "You're a strange man, Mr. Crow." Ellis looked at her with those bright, patient eyes. "No," he said, "I'm the filing clerk." He slid a single dollar across the counter. Ruth left. She didn't look back. That night she dreamed she was standing in the stationery store, but the shelves were gone. In their place were rows and rows of people, standing perfectly still, faces pale, eyes open. Each one held a receipt in their right hand. The receipts glowed faintly, like dying fireflies. Ellis walked slowly down the aisle between them, collecting the receipts one by one, tucking them into the pockets of his gray cardigan. When he reached Ruth, he smiled that small, polite smile. "Your turn," he said. She woke up screaming. The next morning, they found Ruth Carver sitting at her kitchen table, hands folded, eyes wide. On the table in front of her was a receipt. It was dated yesterday. The ink was still warm.
Chapter 2. The Weight of Small Things. Ellis Crow did not sleep. He never had, not in the way other people understood the word. Sleep was for those who still believed the past could be put away in drawers, folded neatly between receipts and forgotten. For Ellis, the past was always open on the counter, waiting to be tallied. The store smelled of old paper and ozone, the faint electric smell that comes when thermal printers have been running too long. At 3 in the morning on the 16th of January, the bell above the door gave its soft, almost apologetic chime. Most people would have jumped. Ellis only lifted his head slowly, as though he had been expecting exactly this visitor at exactly this hour. The man who stepped inside was broad-shouldered and stooped, the way men get when they've carried too many heavy things for too many years. His name was Dale Merrick. He had been a foreman at the old textile mill until it closed in '09. After that, he drove a delivery truck for the regional beer distributor. He still wore the company jacket, though the logo had started to peel. Dale carried a plastic grocery bag. Inside it, something rattled softly, like dry bones. "Evening, Mr. Crow," Dale said. His voice was hoarse, the way it gets when you've spent too many nights shouting over machinery or crying in the dark. "Evening, Dale." Ellis's tone was polite, almost gentle. He gestured to the stool on the customer side of the counter. "Sit if you like." Dale did not sit. He set the bag on the counter with the carefulness of a man handling live ammunition. "I brought what you asked for," he said. "I didn't ask for anything." Dale gave a small, tired laugh. "You didn't have to. Word gets around." Ellis waited. Dale reached into the bag and pulled out a thick sheaf of receipts held together with a rubber band gone brittle with age. The top one was from April 12, 2003. The date was printed in faded black ink. Gas and Go on Route 7, $18.47, regular unleaded. 1 pack of Marlboros, 1 large coffee, black. Dale's fingers trembled as he slid the bundle across the scarred wood. "That's the day," he said. "The day I drove home after my shift. The day the fog was so thick you couldn't see the yellow line. The day I—" He stopped, swallowed. "The day I hit the kid on the bicycle." Ellis took the receipts without hurry. He slipped off the rubber band and began to sort them, one by one, as though he were dealing cards in some private game of solitaire. Dale watched him. "They told me it was an accident. Said the boy came out of nowhere. Said I couldn't have seen him. But I saw him, Mr. Crow. I saw the reflectors on his wheels flash in the headlights. I saw his face turn toward me just for a second. He was 16. Name was Jeremy Platt. Liked drawing comics. Wanted to go to art school in Boston." The store was very quiet except for the soft rustle of paper. "I kept every receipt from that week," Dale continued. "Every one. Gas, groceries,
the motel I stayed in for 3 nights because I couldn't go home to my wife, the bottle of whiskey I bought on the 4th night. I thought if I kept them all, if I remembered every little thing I spent money on that week, maybe the big thing would get smaller. Maybe it would fit inside the rest of it. Ellis reached the bottom of the stack. The very last receipt was different. It was not thermal paper. It was heavier stock, the kind they used to use for carbon copies. At the top, in block letters, Mercy Hospital Emergency Room, April 13, 2003. Patient Jeremy Platt. Time of death 02:47 a.m. Amount due $0. Payment method none required. Ellis studied it for a long time. "You kept this one too," he said quietly. "I took it from the nurses' station when they weren't looking. Thought maybe if I had proof it was real, I could stop pretending it was a dream." Ellis set the hospital receipt on top of the others. He did not offer money. Not yet. "Tell me," he said, "what happens when you dream about it now?" Dale's shoulders sagged another inch. "I dream I'm still driving. The fog is thicker than ever, and the kid, he's not on the road anymore. He's sitting in the passenger seat. He's got his sketchbook open on his lap. He's drawing me, over and over. Every page is just my face behind the wheel, getting older, grayer, more tired. And on the last page," Dale's voice cracked, "on the last page, I'm not driving anymore. I'm the one lying in the road, and he's the one behind the wheel." Ellis nodded, as though this were the most ordinary thing in the world. "Receipts are like memories," he said. "They don't lie. They don't forget. They simply wait for someone to read them correctly." Dale looked at him, really looked. For the first time, he noticed that Ellis's cardigan had no lint on it, no loose threads, no signs of wear at the elbows. It looked exactly as it had the day the store reopened, exactly as it had the day before that, and the day before that. "How long have you been here, Mr. Crow?" Dale asked. Ellis smiled his small, polite smile. "Long enough to know that some debts are never paid in money." He reached under the counter and brought out a small metal box, the kind that once held index cards. He opened it. Inside were dozens, no, hundreds of receipts, some yellowed, some crisp, some still warm to the touch. He selected one from near the top. It was dated tonight, January 15th, 2026. Gas and Go on Route 7, $42.13. Regular unleaded. 1 pack of Marlboros, 1 large coffee, black. Dale stared at it. That's what I bought on my way here, tonight." "Yes," Ellis said, "it is." He slid the new receipt into the stack with the others. Then he closed the metal box and put it away. Dale's hand went to his chest. He felt something shift inside him, like something heavy and final, like the last tumbler in a lock falling into place. "Am I?" He couldn't finish the sentence. Ellis looked at him with something almost like kindness. "You're finished paying for that night," he said. "The account is settled." Dale took one step backward, then another. He never took his eyes off Ellis. The bell chimed again as he left. Outside, the street was empty. The sodium lamps buzzed. Somewhere far off, a dog barked once and fell silent. Inside the store, Ellis returned to his stool. He opened the metal box again and removed the receipt for tonight's purchase. He studied it for a moment. Then he folded it neatly, tucked it into the breast pocket of his gray cardigan, and began to wait for the next customer. There was always a next customer. In Derry, there always would be.